I wasn't trained in HR, I was trained in international conflict, right? And wasn't trained in business, didn't get my MBA. And so the imposter syndrome was real. You show up to work and you have to lead something that I've never led before. I've never done before. And maybe other people around me have, but they're trusting me to do the work. That's where I really want to surround myself with other thoughtful people who care about similar things and say, hey, I have this idea, or I think we're going to go this way, or hey, you've done this before. I learned so much from them, and it was incredible to put myself in a position where I was not only leader, but also learner.
Cathy, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm good. Like, you've got one of your biggest fans on the show. I mean, right here,
I love it.
as well. I got my new rug today. For listeners, that makes no context, but we'll make it make sense in a minute. When you speak to people, do they just tell you all the things that they've bought from Wayfair? Is that a
or
thing?
the things they bought, or the things that went wrong with their order.
Oh, great.
Or there's been a lot of dealing with customer issues as a HR executive.
Are you serious? They're like,
yeah.
oh, you can help me out. I mean, to be fair, that makes sense.
It does. But they don't have context.
Yes, true.
For my job. Right?
So they think you can do this. That's fine.
Right.
Well, so they'll just reach out. That's so interesting. They'll just reach out to you thinking, sure, you can help me.
Definitely.
To be fair, I've done that a few times myself. I must admit, I had an issue where my LinkedIn profile got taken down because someone falsely reported it because I don't know why. They'd just been malicious. And I called the CHRO of LinkedIn and it was up the next day. So
well, sometimes it works.
Sometimes you got to pull in the favors when you can. Right. But let's go back for everyone because sure. I love your journey. Tell everyone a bit about your background and the really interesting journey that you've had to where you are now.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm at Wayfair right now. I lead HR for the technology organization. I have a couple of the centers of excellence that also report up through me. But if I go all the way back to gosh, I went to undergraduate outside of Philadelphia. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, went to Villanova University, and had a great experience, but was ready to get out of there. And I went to the University of Denver, and I actually studied conflict resolution. I was super interested in international conflict, particularly the Israeli-Iranian conflict. And I was like, oh man, I'm really going to solve this.
Wow. That's very ambitious at that age.
I was ambitious. That will stay true, that theme. But I was interested in, why do cultures clash? What goes on? How can we get people to talk to each other and find common ground? And I was looking at it from a lens of international relations. And that's what I got my degree in. But in the meantime, I had to work. I didn't have any money. I was in graduate school. And so I actually worked at a Target in Colorado and got really interested. I was like, this is super interesting. I like business. I like how this works. I was interested in the logistics. I was interested in the challenges that we were facing as our little store. And I started to get like, oh, what is this business stuff? And talk to the head of HR of that store. And she took me under her wing, and I developed a leadership program for the Target store. And then somehow I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do international relations as my career. Maybe I should do something else. Yeah. I actually wrote my thesis as a result. I totally changed paths in the middle of my graduate degree, and I wrote on how do people in the workplace solve conflict informally? What do you do when you have a conflict with someone at work? what do you do? How do you handle it? How does it work? And wrote my research paper on that, and that kind of launched my
Wow.
career into the HR space-ish from there.
That's so, I mean,
Sometimes I wonder.
my first question is, where do you think this curiosity stems from?
I think at the core of it, there's this interest in humanity, how we relate to each other, what this, where we spend so much time at work. I spend the majority of my time at work, so do you. And so if there's things that get in the way of us having a great experience, which often comes from conflict, I don't like how I'm feeling, I don't like what I'm getting done, I disagree with my boss, I don't like my peer. Um, that's really a study of humanity and how it is that we exist in the world and how it is we relate to each other and how it is we have the best lives that we have and that we could. And that's really, I don't know, I guess that's what I became really interested in. I'm not answering your question, which
No,
is,
you are, but I mean,
where did it come from? I
yeah,
don't
just
know.
wondering if it was something that you had as a kid. Was you one of those curious? Because I was always the kid. My mum, I drove my mum crazy. But why?
Yeah, but why?
Yeah, but
All the questions,
yeah,
all
and
the
sometimes
questions.
I'm like, I just don't know why. That's the way we do it. But I'm just wondering if that's something you look back on as you reflect. Was that something
Yeah.
was always part of your personality, maybe, as it were?
Yeah, I wasn't a but why, but I was an observer. Like I actually, my mom passed when I was young, when I was 18, and I just recently, my dad sent a bunch of my like books. My mom kept a journal about each of us, which is really incredible.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know how she did.
amazing.
I don't know how she had the time. But when I was young, like two, three, four, five, she always wrote, Kathy's observing, she's watching, she's like
Ah,
really, from a very young age was a observer of interested in, how is it that people are relating to each other? What's going on here?
yeah.
Kind of thing.
So you already had that curious mindset from very
I think so.
early
Yeah.
on, which is it's quite rare.
Yeah.
It's more rare than you think. The people don't just accept what's happening to them around them, but they question it, they query
Yeah.
it, they observe it, like you said,
Mhm.
as well. And it's interesting how that led you down the route of kind of workplace conflict. But I get it. Like I now I get it. Now you've explained it. What would you say is like
Yeah.
a common misconception when people think about workplace conflict?
That they have to go to HR.
Yes, yes. Everyone watching and listening right now is going to hit a thumbs up on that one, right? And we're like, and normally it's the managers coming to you with that
That's right.
rather than dealing it
Exactly.
with themselves. Like, no, this doesn't live
Right.
just with HR
Right.
as well, right? It's like no, that's part of your role as a leader.
That's right, exactly.
But
Yeah. I
that's
find it really interesting
go on. Sorry.
interesting now too. No, it's fine. I'm seeing some of the younger generation come into the workforce, and I'm finding it interesting that they are coming to HR more than I would say some of their the previous generations,
Yeah.
myself included, which is a very interesting trend. I don't know if others are seeing it. It's very anecdotal, but
Yeah. No, it makes sense. How do you say that how's that shaped you as a HR leader?
I have zero idea, but let's try. Let's play it out.
Yeah, I know I'm just throwing questions at you. I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
shaping how you approach problems, right? Because
Uh-huh.
you're looking at it from quite a unique lens,
Yeah.
and I'm just wondering if
I think
that.
you Yeah, it's really my training, my graduate degree was really about how do you find relatability, common ground, where can you spend time particularly in the beginning, creating the relatability. And I do firmly believe that what has us all connected is that we have an experience as humans on this earth, and there's going to be something that connects me to you, Chris.
Mm,
There always is. loved this person, or not a particular person, but we had love in our lives, or we had challenge in our life, or whatever it is, there's usually some common ground. And so that's often the starting point of how I approach difficult conversations, or how I approach two people who are in conflict and having them to come together. I know you're both really committed to doing a great job at work. So let's start there, and then we can figure out what the challenge is along the way, and getting people grounded in that. I as a HR leader, it has me be more connected to the human experience, what my employees are going through, what my leaders are going through. I'm really thinking about it from that perspective, not just the numbers in the business. And although I care a lot about that,
Yeah.
it's really coming from that approach of where we have this common human experience that we're all in together.
Yeah. I try and encourage that in my team a lot, because one of the things that we talk about in our meetings or when we're giving feedback, when we're handling conflict, is start with firstly assuming positive intent.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can very quickly put your wall up and your guard.
Right.
Right? But try and put yourself in another person's shoes and start with assuming positive intent, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something me and Shane as best friends, that's tough, right? To give each other hard feedback when you've been friends as
Yes.
kids. So when Shane gives me feedback on something maybe I don't want to hear, right?
Right.
I always think from two things. I know that Shane's saying this because he wants the best for me, and he wants the best for the organization. He's not going out of his
Hmm.
way to try and make me feel bad to be able to
Hmm.
do
Hmm.
that. And that's kind of like a muscle, because you have like this knee
Yes.
jerk reaction, right, to be able to do that. And then
Yeah.
I love what you just said, is setting the foundation of saying this is why we're having this conversation,
Hmm.
and setting up that
Hmm.
beforehand. And like
Yeah.
this is why we're having the meeting. This is the purpose, and I do that for every meeting I have now. It's like a rule that if I'm having a meeting with
Yeah.
one on one or with a team, I'm saying this is the purpose of this meeting, and then immediately
Right.
everyone knows exactly why it is. No one's assuming, is it about
Right.
this? Is it about is it about that? And you kind of skip that process.
Right.
Um,
You
uh,
just
uh,
skip it.
yeah, and then it just become part of our business now. Anyone at any level in this company can come and tell me or anyone what they think in front of the whole team, and I'm not going to say, "Hey, I'm the
Hmm.
CEO. How dare you talk to me?" and say
Hmm.
that. Do you
Hmm.
think that's also what led you down the route? I know at QVC and Amazon and Gap, but you've dealt with a lot of transformation and
Hmm.
business change. This seems like a natural segue.
Supernatural. Yeah. I think the other thing that's like, we talked about I ambitious. That is true. Like I am one of those people that I drive for change. I want to see what's next. I want to help us advance in some way. And so that's where I get my energy. And so I'm attracted to situations, roles, companies where there's something really big that needs to get done. And we have to figure out not only our path forward to some sort of end state, but also bringing people along the way and having them have a great experience of whatever it is we're doing. And as I think about like all of my jobs in consulting with Gap International at QVC, responsible for figuring out how do we go from a geographically siloed company to a globally matrix organization. That was a really big
That's
transformation for
fun.
the company.
Yeah.
It was super fun. They gave me the role and I was like Googling org
Well,
design
that's
because
when
I didn't know what it was.
that's the days where you wish you had ChatGPT.
The days when I was in, that's right.
You're like, I wish I had ChatGPT. I mean, you didn't know of it then, but this is now where people don't take for granted
That's right.
how hard.
Oh man, I would have been so great with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But really, like there is this like, oh, there's this big thing we need to get done. I'll figure it out. I will figure it
But
out and
that's a
make it up along
mindset
the
though,
way.
right? Like that's a
Yeah.
mindset. Like people always say, I mean, this sounds really arrogant, but they say, Chris, you're good at everything you do. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's just that I look at it through the lens of not rather than I can't do that, I don't have the skills to, how can I? And then I have the
Right.
curiosity to go down the rabbit hole and willingness to fail forward. And for me,
Right.
that's where the excitement comes. That's where my sweet spot
Yeah.
is, in the middle of chaos. My Chester, my coach, always says, like, Chris, your superpower is resilience. He always says that to me all the time.
Mm.
He's like, because you
Mhm.
kind of run towards the headwind. And I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fun. That's where the biggest growth happens. That's where, like, I mean,
that's
don't get me
right.
wrong. It doesn't feel good sometimes when you're in the storm, but being
Right.
able to recognize that you're in the storm.
That's right.
Some people don't know they're
And
in the
that there will
storm,
be another side,
and
right?
then
The storm doesn't last forever,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
We always get to the other side
Yeah.
of,
Could you think of a
yeah.
moment like during those roles, like that really? What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome that really helped shape you?
I talk to my team about this a lot, actually. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was imposter syndrome. I wasn't trained in HR, I was trained in
Hmm.
international conflict, right? And wasn't trained in business, didn't get my MBA. Um, and as I said, I Googled org design when I was
I love your
starting
honesty,
to,
by the way. I absolutely love it, and this is just the truth of everyone, to be honest.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like, I was working with the CHRO, the CEO, the executive team, and they were like, okay, we got to do this big thing. We want to purchase HSN in the long term. How do we redesign QVC? And I was like, org design, Googling. And so the imposter syndrome was real. You show up to work and you have to lead something that I've never led before. I've never done before. And maybe other people around me have, but they're trusting me to do the work. And so how do I confront in all of those scenarios, not being the expert or not actually having any of the answers, but still having the confidence to say, I'll lead us through this. And I can do it in a way that's going to set us up to be successful, even if it's a mess along the way. Hopefully it's not a mess. I even feel it right now, right? In this whole generative AI transformation, I am leading the team with a ton of confidence. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to redesign roles and we're going to refigure out levels and we're going to figure out our job architecture in the midst of this. But I don't actually know what I'm doing. But
That's the honest truth. But the
yeah,
fact that you can acknowledge that is part of the reason why you've been able to push forward, because you either
yeah,
let it handcuff you, right, and you say
right.
no to opportunities, you turn them down because you feel like you're not fully ready. But the reality is you're never ready, and
Never.
and the world is moving so fast that you'll continuously not be ready with this new, for example, AI is a thrusted upon all of us, and it's completely new. There is no case study, there's no playbook to be able to do that. How did you, I was going to say how did you overcome that, but like I don't think you ever overcome that. I think you just acknowledge that, and I agree. I always
Yeah,
feel the same, but how do you use that as fuel as opposed to letting
yeah,
it hold you back?
yeah. I think a belief in the future that I can figure it out, right? But I also that's where I start to go seek others out, right? Because I don't know anything really, or I have assumptions, or have a hypothesis, or think I could go this way, and that's where I really want to surround myself with other thoughtful people who care about similar things and say, hey, I have this idea, or I think we're going to go this way, or hey, you've done this before. When I was doing the work at QVC with the org design, we brought in a consulting company that, man, I learned so much from them. And it was incredible to um, put myself in a position where I was not only leader, but also learner, and learning from the people around me and the people that could really support and enable success of whatever outcome we were driving. And so I think those two things, confidence in the future, but also surrounding myself with people that could ensure the outcome was going to get delivered.
Yeah. I mean that's quite a big misconception, right? When you look at some of the most successful leaders and entrepreneurs, etc., out there, you assume that they are the source of knowledge. But what you
Mhm.
find is they actually are just their superpower is getting the right people and
Yeah,
hiring the right people and making them work well, right? They're not the knowledge, they are basically experts at being able to get the right people and creating the right
yeah,
environment for them to thrive. And that was something
absolutely.
that blew my mind when I started interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs. I was like, wow, so it's not even you. I always assumed it's the the founder or the CEO. And I was like, no, they're just actually incredible. And loads of CPOs that I know that have their first time is in the CPO role and they have no background whatsoever. When I asked them, like,
Right.
how are you doing? And they're like, well, I just surround myself with amazing people, and you have to
Yeah.
lead with vulnerability. Take your
Yeah.
ego out of the room, be vulnerable, be curious, ask questions.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
unlocks a level of trust within your team through that humility that empowers them to do their best work. But you just got to
Absolutely.
get out of the way.
You just gotta get out of the
Whenever
way.
HR leaders are struggling, it's normally because I'm the bottleneck.
That's right.
And and it took me a long time to realize that. Sometimes I'm like
Mhm.
complaining and this is not happening, and I'm like, it's because me, most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people that perhaps feel they're not ready to take that next step, and there are opportunities ahead of them? What words would you give to them?
Do it anyways. I actually just talked to a team member of mine. He has been an individual contributor on my team for 3 years. He has this opportunity to lead a central function in was a center of excellence in the HR organization. And he's like, Cathy, I've never led a team. I don't know what I'm doing. But I trust you. What do you think? I'm like, absolutely take it. I won't let you fail. Go. Call me up anytime. We'll talk about what you're struggling with, what's going on. But this is the opportunity for you to push yourself to experiment. Is this something you love? Is this something that excites you? Is this something that you could be, really propelling your career forward in the way that you want? And so I'm always just a go for it. I'm always a pick up the phone. I'm always a take a
Yeah.
bet on yourself. Um,
I
yeah,
mean, one of the things that I think I learned quite young is like, no one, I don't know where I got this from, but maybe it was a podcast I listened to, but I remember someone talking around the cost of not doing it. So people
mm,
always look at the cost of what if I fail, what are people going to think,
sure.
whereas if you just completely flip that, and whenever you have that wrote the moment in life, or is what is the cost of me not saying yes?
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and that for me changed everything. So whenever I see a new solution
yeah.
opportunity, I'm like, just go for it, because the very worst thing is you're going to learn a lot
That's right. And
along the
I,
way.
I always say to my team, look, it's a two-way door. If you hate it or you think this is the worst thing you've ever done, ever decision, just make a different decision.
Yeah, 100%.
Then we can say like, okay, this wasn't the right thing. You tried it, you hate it. Let's move on and find what the next thing is for you then.
Yeah,
You're not stuck. You're not stuck there forever.
that's true. Yeah, and it's and most of the leaders I spoke to that have been, for example, in the same company for a long time, they just had multiple careers in the same business.
That's right. Yeah.
And so you can do that. I mean, I think that's going to become less and less as we work shifts to more
Yeah.
skills based, and we remove silos between functions, etc. It's going to become a lot more project based. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that evolves.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to open up even more opportunities because we're looking at
I
people
think
as,
so.
yeah, I think it's even going to be even better because the reason I quit my
Yeah.
last job, I was there for 10 years from the age of 17 in a sales role. And I remember going to my leadership team and saying, I want more opportunity. Like, and they're like, no, you're sales, stick to
Hmm.
sales. And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, but I've been doing this for 10 years. Like, I enjoy the company, I enjoy the team. And unfortunately, they refused and I left. I didn't want to
Yeah.
leave. I was just looking for other
Right.
opportunities. They're like, you don't know anything about marketing or you don't know anything about operation. I was like, yeah, but I have the skills that are transferable. And clearly, I have
Hmm.
the dedication and growth mindset because I've been here for 10 years and evolved. And they
Hmm.
were like, nah, we have this structure and this is how it works in your
Hierarchy.
sales. And now I look
Mhm.
back 10 years later and be like, what a shame I mean,
What a
not, I
shame
mean, for me, it worked out great, but I mean, what a shame for them to
for them. Yeah.
lose talent, right? And I look at that with my own team.
Right.
Most of the team have been with us for 5 years plus, and they've been in multiple roles in the
Yeah.
organization. And I always have conversations with them around, is there any other areas that are really interesting for you that you're excited about? And they're like, yeah, like, we've had like salespeople go into marketing. We've had someone in marketing go into live stream production because they did it in their spare time and they were really excited about it. We've had people go all over the
Hmm.
business, and that's where they really unlock themselves. And You
Yeah.
don't need to ask for discretionary effort. They can't wait to do it.
No. I think too, you talked about the future, and I think I imagine that as we move to more, um, generative AI really becomes our assistance. It becomes taking over some of our automated rote work that we don't need to spend our time on, and it will free us up to try
Yeah,
other things. And the nature of those things will be using those transferable skills. How do you relate to people? What's your strategic thinking, your critical thinking?
I'm
How are you thinking about the business and the customer and applying those things in different contexts? And I think the work is shifting to there's this project we need to get done, this initiative we need to drive, and it's going to enable our talent, our people to say, oh, I think I could try that because I have those skills that I just talked about. And that's what's needed because ChatGPT is going to have the expertise around marketing or whatever it is. They can say, prop you up, they can prop people up
yeah,
with the expertise. And I think that's really exciting about the
yeah.
future.
It's such an incredible shift, right? Because like
Yes.
you went from a skills, sorry, from technical
Job-based.
focus on technical capability, which was really the focus of education and
Hmm.
what people are looking at on CVs, to actually we can acquire that very relatively easy through AI and other elements. So
Hmm.
now what becomes more important is those power skills, right?
Right.
Like you said, critical thinking. I'm worried about that, quite honestly. The fact that
Same.
people just can just throw something into ChatGPT and not have to actually have to really think and process and know what it
That's
feels like
right.
to start with a blank piece of paper, which is really hard, but then forces you to really
Hmm.
explore. Now you just ask a question, you get an answer, but you're not even really analyzing what does that mean, and the process that it was created as well. So we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna have to be a little bit careful about how we leverage that. So I am excited about it, and I agree. Like I actually just embedded a tool this week that listens into all of my calls, and when I get off a call, it already has written the email in my inbox to reply to the person I just spoke to
Incredible.
with the entire context, and I just have to press send. And
Yeah.
it spent 2 weeks training itself on my tone of thousands of my previous emails. And that saved
Incredible.
me probably a day a week. I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
just, and it has them all teed up, and any email that comes in my inbox, it writes a response for me, and then I just have to approve it. So I go
Right.
through what take me hours. Now I'm just tweaking,
Yeah. Yeah.
approve.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
small thing, but that is an absolute game changer for
Yeah.
me for like $20 a month to be able to be able to do that. But I'm excited for
Yeah.
that to be able to free up our leaders and our managers and our employees to really focus on that
Yeah.
human element. Did you say within your current role you have a leadership academy, or did maybe I got that wrong earlier?
We don't. We don't at Wayfair. We have a bunch of leadership like development programs, particularly as you're moving into first-time management. We have a program that people can go through, and then there's coursework that people can take as they become more senior and need to create advanced skills, are dealing with more challenging situations, that sort of thing. But it's not an academy per se.
Yeah. I was just wondering, based on what we just discussed, how you think that will evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting I'm working with our senior tech leaders right now to rethink what does an engineer of the future look like? What does a product manager of the future look like? How do we architect our work and then therefore architect our jobs, our people, the infrastructure around it? And one of the big challenges that we're thinking through right now is, and I'm sure others are as well, is, what we really need are the critical thinkers, the more senior engineers who are going to say, understand our architecture and be able to deploy coding agents in a way that is really writing code to solve the customer problem. They're going to become more senior technical writers. But I need to grow the future of those engineers. I need to say, okay, I don't need an engineer right out of school to be writing code because the agent's going to do that.
Yeah.
But What I do need is to grow someone right out of school into that more senior person who understands the architecture, brings critical thinking, understands, looks around corner, is going to think about reusability. And so that's where we're really thinking, okay, what does the academy, or I don't know that we're going to use those words, but the academy of growth look like, and moving it more towards early careers versus management, because I need to grow those skills, develop those skills for employees as they're leaving college, leaving university, and entering the workforce, and developing those critical thinking skills that we talked about within the context of Wayfair.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because although we've created these incredible LLMs and technical tools, now creativity is now something that was undervalued in the past,
Hmm.
which is now we don't need the technical capability. It's actually the creativity, the curiosity, the critical thinking, which is going to be
Yeah,
the currency of the future because we
that's
have
right.
that at our fingertips. And that's something we've like in education, in our workplace education, that we've just massively under indexed on. That was not
We've
something
under indexed.
I've not seen that in any training
Mm-mm.
program
No, no.
whatsoever. We see it with they now call it STEAM rather than STEM because they've added in
Hmm.
the art part of it as well. But it's not. I see it even in my own daughter's education. It's just not something that's like valued in the same way
Yeah,
as English, maths, and science,
yeah,
etc. But what
yeah,
about that curiosity? How are we exploring that
yeah.
as much as possible?
And I think at least in the business corporate world, being really curious about your customer,
Yeah,
aka the human on the other side, is going to be probably the one of the most critical things that we can do, because that's what's going to drive the innovation. What do they need? How are they thinking? And really coming from that space is that's not what we train engineers on. We
no,
train engineers
no,
on how to develop really great code that's developing a slick application, right? But now it's really going to be focused on be curious about the human on the other side.
yeah.
What can you do for them?
My head of engineering and AI Marvin is kind of like a I've even got very lucky with him. He's one of the few engineers that I speak to that has a very much he has kind of both sides. He has the technical ability to code and build, and but he has this curiosity and this
Hmm.
creativity combined, which I've not seen often, and it makes him approach different problems in a for a very different view.
Yeah.
And I'll ask him questions around can we do X, Y, and Z, and his response is he's like yes. The answer is yes to everything you're about to ask me before I even ask, and he's like, but he's always like why
Right.
what what is the well, I love that he challenged what but what is the why is it we just jumping on the
Yeah.
trend or on the bandwagon and he's like people have already all done this it's like all the pieces of the puzzle in the airspace many of them are already there and it's now just
Hmm.
how companies are assembling that puzzle to solve a specific
Hmm.
problem all the
Yeah.
ingredients are already there and it's the creativity of thinking differently about how can I reimagine these different challenges in a
What do I
new
do?
way and approach
Hmm.
that. When people, I mean, even when I first connected with you and I saw obviously the technology side, people probably don't think of the organization that you're working for from through a technology lens.
Yeah.
So what does that mean when you talk about technology and Wayfair? Could you give some
Yeah.
examples like of what that means?
Well, first, like Wayfair's e-commerce first, right? So you think about the home decor industry, and most of the time people go to a store to sit on the couch and decide whether or not they want to buy it. And Wayfair said, let's flip the script and say we're going to provide a much larger catalog of high quality products, and you're going to be able to order it from your home and have confidence that it's great.
Yeah,
Um, and so technology is really the backbone of our customer being able to have confidence in the product that they're buying. And if you think about as we're moving into the future, we actually are doing some really cool things where our technology team said, "Hey, we think we can use generative AI to imagine a new living room for you." So let's say you want to do I know that this probably isn't your style, Chris, but a bohemian mountain living room style.
Yeah.
And you can go into Wayfair and say, this is the kind of style I want. Can you imagine what that room, design what that room looks like for me, and offer up products that work together, so that I can really uh, uh, purchase the things and create a room or a home that I love. And so technology, our tech team has to figure out, how do we take a customer out of the store and have that same experience through your computer screen.
Mhm.
And the team has done an incredible job of really thinking innovatively. And we were one of the first in the industry to provide some of those experiences, particularly with generative AI, to the customer, to a customer facing, so that they could really build a home that they love through our interface and through our app and through our website.
One of the challenges I assume must be though that you're all also fighting for that same talent. So how do you make such
Everyone's fighting.
a compelling offering from an employee brand perspective? I suppose I'm assuming most people know the brand when.
Yeah, most people know the brand, particularly in the US. We've had to build a brand recognition as we've moved into India, and we don't sell our products in India. So how do we create a great brand for attracting top tech talent, particularly in India? Um, but it comes down to, are you working on, engineers love to work on really interesting things,
Yeah.
and are you working on cool things? Do you get to make a difference for the customer? That's ultimately what we all want to do. Do I feel like I'm bringing value? And if people feel like they're bringing value, feel like they're supported within their environment, that's really what we're trying to create at Wayfair. And it helps that, Fiona Tan, our CTO, is really ahead on and out there in the world around how we are leading the charge from technology advancements and in the e-commerce space. And so that also helps having a great brand from a tech talent
Yeah.
perspective.
No, I love that. I think there's a lot of trust and credibility with the brand over. So the team have done an amazing.
Yeah,
Whatever they're doing, they've done a great job
it works. It's
over the
working.
years. I have to ask you this last question before I let you go. What are some of the ways that you're leveraging Gen AI in HR? Because
Yeah,
it's a bit of a minefield right now. So much going.
it,
You could,
it is.
yeah.
I'm so in my team, we last winter, during our performance cycle, we actually put out guides for our managers and employees about how to use generative AI for performance reviews. I think we were pretty early in that train, and we got some really great results from that. So we're continuing to build on that, supporting our promotion processes as well. How do you use generative AI to build your promotion packet for your employee, evaluate that, ensure it meets other requirements, and then obviously humans are in the loop to make decisions and evaluate those. We're using it pretty heavily in our TA process. We've actually implemented now, for engineering, code assist tools. What code assist tool are you using? And then now we're assessing, because we know they're using it. And
Yeah,
now we're
yeah, that's
assessing,
such a good point, by the way. If you all think they're not using these tools, they're outside of the
Billy.
business, they're using them anyway. So you better as well,
Yeah, yeah.
what you might as well work with them on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we ask them which one are they using, and then we ask them questions about their code that they actually that they are presenting to us, so that we're assessing now critical thinking rather than the
Ah,
code quality themselves. And so that's a big shift in our interview processes. And obviously it's helping us find talent and source and all those things. And from a TA perspective, schedule interviews, take notes during interviews, all that sort of stuff. And then we're in the process of implementing an AI chatbot for our employee work, our employee base, that says, how can you get all your tier one questions answered? Please generate my employment verification letter. How many PTO days do I have left? All that sort of stuff. We're in that space as well. And then the other piece that I'm responsible for is our onboarding and learning programs. And so we've started to use Gen AI technology to build our training programs, to build our onboarding, to support leaders and having personalized onboarding, appropriate to the person, the candidate, based on their interview, based on the feedback, and then based on their role,
wow.
which is really awesome.
That's
Yeah, it's fun
super,
stuff.
super exciting times ahead
Yeah.
as well. I mean, we could do a whole nother show about how you decided to choose or all of that and what tools, because there's like a million out there as well,
There's
right?
a million.
But maybe
Yeah.
we'll do a
Yeah.
part two, maybe a year from now. You can tell me how it all went. and
Yeah, that's right.
and
I mean, it's all experimentation.
yeah, but I think part of that though is you have to create the environment for experimentation and have the
Yeah.
sandbox for people to
Yeah.
play in. Because otherwise, like anyone who says they're going to choose the right solution the first time and get it right, it's just not reality. So you also have to be
No.
comfortable that we're going to make some bets, we're going to learn. Let's be
That's
transparent
right.
about that with people as well,
Yeah.
and be clear on what we are going to do and what we're not going to
Yeah.
do as well. But it sounds like I think what you're describing also, to quite honestly, is really setting the foundations when
That's
in
right.
terms of
What's our infrastructure?
yeah,
Hmm.
like you got to set that part first before you start going off into some more complex tasks. Like some
That's right.
companies I'm seeing are skipping that step, and I think that's going to kind of just be a house of cards at some point. You need to really
That's
be
right.
intentional about that first layer.
About the infrastructure.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Yeah.
listen, I've got to let you go at some point. I just realized we're way over time, but I just forgot and enjoyed the conversation way too much,
Me
which
too.
is a good thing as well. But I appreciate you coming on. The last thing I'll ask you is, like,
Yeah.
for those HR leaders of the future, the ones that are going to be sitting in your seat one day, what will be your parting piece of advice? And then we'll say goodbye.
Just take the job. Go for it.
Yeah.
Try it. Do it. There's I don't know, continue to be curious, believe in yourself, even if you go imposter syndrome, because you'll figure it out. None of us really know what we're doing, and we're all figuring it out together. And
Yeah.
so go for the job. Take a bet on yourself.
No, I love that. If you feel imposter syndrome, it means you're doing the right thing.
Hmm. It's a
It,
good scared.
yeah, it means you're pushing in the right direction. Anything
Yeah.
worth doing, and you're gonna feel that. So like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
reframe that as, actually this just means I'm challenging myself to do better, be better
That's
as
right.
well, as rather than like, what if I fail as well. And I really appreciate during this episode, like, the conversation, your vulnerability of sharing that too, because we always see these people at the top and assume they've all got it all figured out and they know everything, and it's just not true. And the
No.
sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll give yourself permission to then
Yeah.
not wait for that tap on the
That's
shoulder.
right.
Give yourself the tap on the
Yeah.
shoulder.
Give yourself the tap.
Give
Go for the
yourself,
job.
yeah.
Bet on yourself,
You bet on
right?
yourself, right? Who better to bet on than
Who
you?
better? That's right.
As well. Well, listen, I appreciate you. Enjoy the holidays, and I
Thank
look
you
forward
as
to
well.
speaking to you soon. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.